Hello students, today we will be dealing with vitamin A, iron and iodine deficiencies, their incidence, signs and symptoms and treatment. So first let us start with vitamin A. Vitamin A is a fat soluble vitamin. Preformed vitamin A is found in animal sources like liver, fish oils, fortified milk and fortified margarine. Provitamin A carotenoids are commonly found in dark green and yellow-orange vegetables like lettuce, spinach, carrots, broccoli, mangoes and papaya. There are different forms of vitamin A, what we call as active forms with specific functions. For example, retinol is needed for transport and reproduction. Retinyl esters are the storage form. Retinal is needed for vision and retinoic acid takes care of the epithelial differentiation, gene transcription and reproduction. Vitamin A plays a major role in night vision. When light strikes rhodopsin in the retina of the eye, retinal undergoes structural change and detaches from opsin, leading to stimulation of the nerve fibers, that is the optic nerve. The optic nerve carries the message of black and white vision from the rod cells to the brain. This is a transparency for you to see how the retinyl esters are involved in the night vision, which gets converted to all trans retinal, which again gets converted to 11-cis retinal, and that is the one which gets converted into rhodopsin involved in night vision. There are many causes of vitamin A deficiency. The first one is the inadequate diet. Poor intake, as is typically seen in low socioeconomic groups. Breastfeeding up to 6 months and the mother's intake is very low for this vitamin. Below poverty line, where the purchasing capacity to buy vitamin A rich foods. Then there is also ignorance, lack of knowledge, religious beliefs. For example, pregnant women are not allowed to eat papaya and green leafy vegetables even though they are available in plenty and are cheap. Infections, diarrhea, other intestinal and respiratory infections, measles interfere with the digestion and absorption of vitamin A in the body, leading to its deficiency. Parasites like Ascaris hinders in vitamin A absorption. Lack of fat will also interfere as vitamin A is a fat soluble vitamin. In kwashiorkor, that is protein deficiency disorder, vitamin is not properly transported in the body as there is a deficiency of retinol binding protein. Then some of the feeding practices. Use of skim milk, which is totally devoid of vitamin A, can precipitate vitamin A deficiency. Now if we look at the different signs of vitamin A deficiency, there are different stages. The first one is night blindness, which we typically say as a reversible process. The second major category is the xerophthalmia, which takes care of xerosis of conjunctiva, Bitot spots, xerosis of cornea, cornea ulceration with xerosis and the keratomalacia. Of course, the last one is phrenoderma, that is the follicular hyperkeratosis. Let us look at these different stages. Night blindness. It is a very important screening tool and it correlates closely with other signs of vitamin A deficiency. The vision in dim light, either at dusk or dawn, is affected. Conjunctival xerosis. It manifests as dry patches of neon wettable conjunctiva. It may be associated with various degrees of thickening, wrinkling and pigmentation of the conjunctiva. Bitot spots. It is a more extension of the xerotic process. These spots are raised, muddy and appear as triangular patches. In the case of girls applying kajal, these spots are very prominent on the temporal side of the cornea. Corneal xerosis. In this, the cornea surface becomes rough, it gives a pebbly appearance and lacks luster. Cornea appears hazy, bluish and sometimes even milky. The cornea takes ground glass appearance. Subsequently, corneal ulcers may also occur. If properly managed, these corneal changes usually heal but leave behind some scars but a little bit of vision. Keratomalacia is the last stage, which we call it as an irreversible blindness. It represents a rapidly progressive necrosis and death of tissue affecting the full thickness of the cornea. Softening of the entire thickness of part or the whole of the cornea occurs, leading to deformation or destruction of the eyeball. It is a rapid process and termed as corneal melting. Follicular hyperkeratosis, also known as phrenoderma. Deficiency of vitamin A causes this, where hyperkeratinization of the epithelium lining the follicle is observed. The sebaceous glands may be absent or present, but only in remnants. The skin becomes rough and dry, and papillae of varying sizes are observed in this condition. If we look at the incidence, approximately 1/3 of the world's preschool age population is estimated to be vitamin A deficient, with the highest prevalence of about 44 to 50% being reported in the regions of Africa and Southeast Asia. It also continues to be a major public health nutritional problem in India, particularly among the rural preschool children. The blood levels were found to be less than 20 micrograms per dl in 61% of the population, a severe public health problem in all NNMB states, ranging from 52% in Maharashtra to about 88% in Madhya Pradesh. The proportion of severe blood vitamin A deficiency indicates severe public health problem in all the NNMB states. Let us look at the treatment now. Oral administration of large doses is a primary treatment. Immediately on diagnosis, an oral dose of 2 lakhs international units of oil miscible vitamin A for children between 1 to 6 years is administered. With persistent vomiting and diarrhea, an intramuscular injection of 1 lakh international units of water miscible vitamin A can be substituted for the oral dose. However, this has to be followed by another oral dose of 2 lakhs international units 1 to 4 weeks later. In the case of infants, that is under the age of 12 months, weighing less than 8 kgs, the same dose may be followed but using half the dose of vitamin A. High doses of vitamin A should be avoided during pregnancy, particularly in the first trimester, because of the possible risk of teratogenesis, that is, birth defects can occur. However, pregnant women with night blindness can be given vitamin A, but in any case it should not exceed 10,000 international units per day. It can also be looked at it this way, the short-term action, where oral administration of large doses of vitamin A is given as retinol palmitate because it's a fat-soluble vitamin. Medium-term action, with food fortification with vitamin A, like you have hydrogenated fats like dalda, sugar, salt, tea, etc. And the long-term action, where you promote breastfeeding, consumption of green leafy vegetables, immunization against infections. Now we have done with vitamin A. Now let us look at iron deficiency, incidence, signs and symptoms, and treatment. Nutritional anemia may be defined as a condition that results from the inability of the erythropoietic tissue to maintain a normal hemoglobin concentration on account of inadequate supply of one or more nutrients, leading to reduction in the total circulating hemoglobin. It is a condition in which the hemoglobin content of blood is lower than normal as a result of deficiency of one or more essential nutrients. There are multiple causes for this. Most important is the inadequate intake of iron. That is, the person just does not take adequate amounts of iron-rich foods. Secondly, it could also be because of the availability of iron from plant sources. These are not good as the heme iron that is from the animal source. the average cereal legume based diets as consumed in most of the developing countries would appear adequate in iron content, that is about 20 to 22 milligrams for an adult, but the availability is poor. In healthy person, only 3 to 5% of the dietary iron is absorbed, and infants and children suffer from iron deficiency anemia due to prolonged breastfeeding without adequate supplementary and the complementary feeding. There is also inadequate utilization of iron. This can take place secondary to chronic gastrointestinal disturbances, defective release of iron from iron stores into the plasma, and also the defective iron utilization owing to chronic inflammation or any other chronic disorder. Then another major thing is inadequate absorption of iron. This can occur in diarrhea as in sprue, pellagra, or when there is lack of acid secretion by the stomach, or in chronic renal diseases when antacid therapy is given. Now this becomes very important because acidic pH is needed for the conversion of ferric iron to its ferrous form where absorption is more. Gastrectomy impairs iron absorption by decreasing hydrochloric acid and the transit time through the duodenum. Similarly, excessive intake of phytates and phosphates in the diet and excessive consumption of tea and coffee which contains caffeine can decrease the absorption of iron. Another reason for deficiency could be blood losses, tuberculosis, ulcers, intestinal disorders, excessive blood donation, or even due to hookworm infestation. Excessive loss that is seen during menstruation and childbirth, and in rural areas, poor obstetric spaced pregnancies and prolonged periods of lactation deplete the iron reserves. Then there is an increased requirement as in infancy, adolescent girls, and during pregnancy and losses of iron may occur due to excessive sweating in tropical climates. Now let us just have a look at the classification of anemia. The first category is microcytic hypochromic anemia. Insufficiency of iron for the formation of hemoglobin, where the RBCs are pale, small, and the anemia is classified as hypochromic, less color, and microcytic, small cells. In this condition, the RBCs are smaller than the normal size and also have reduced oxygen carrying ability due to less hemoglobin. The second type is the macrocytic anemia or the megaloblastic anemia. If the maturation of the RBCs in the bone marrow is impaired due to lack of folate, that is folic acid, or vitamin B12, the cells which enter the bloodstream are irregular in size and shape, usually larger than normal, and contain their full complement of hemoglobin. This anemia is called as orthochromic macrocytic anemia. Here we should also remember that vitamin B12 and folic acids are coenzymes in the DNA synthetic pathway. Deficiency of these vitamins or impairment in their utilization results in damaged or inadequate synthesis of DNA. The third type is the pernicious anemia. It is not very common. Even inadequate consumption of B12 does not really lead to pernicious anemia. However, gross deficiency of vitamin B12 can cause pernicious anemia. Vitamin B12 must be bound to the intrinsic factor, which is produced by the parietal cells of the stomach before it is absorbed in the terminal ileum. Inability to produce intrinsic factor results in pernicious anemia. The red cell count is often less than 2.5 million, and a large proportion of these cells are macrocytic. The anemia occurs chiefly in the middle-aged and elderly persons and may be a genetic defect or an autoimmune disorder which destroys the intrinsic factor producing cells. The signs and symptoms of anemia are: it is characterized by pallor, that is reduced oxyhemoglobin in skin and mucous membrane, fatigue and weakness. There is troubled breathing. There is unusual obsessive food cravings, which is known as pica or pica, and there is hair loss, lightheadedness, and the clinical signs are pale skin, koilonychia, that is the brittle fingernails, sometimes spoon shaped, There's fatigue, weakness, difficulty in breathing on exertion, inadequate temperature regulation, loss of appetite, and apathy. This is just to show you how much the prevalence of anemia is in the Indian children, particularly in the 6 to 35 months as given by NNMB. Let us now look at the interventions to control or combat anemia. Most important is the iron and folic acid supplementation. Nutritional Anemia Prophylaxis Program, that is daily iron and folic acid supplementation to pregnant and lactating women and for children below 12 years. Then there is a National Nutritional Anemia Prophylaxis Program where pregnant and lactating women receive 60 milligrams of elemental iron in addition to 500 micrograms of folic acid daily for at least 100 days. Preschool children receive 20 milligrams of elemental iron and 100 micrograms of folic acid daily. The dose of iron has been increased to 100 milligrams in the National Anemia Control Program for prophylaxis as well as for anemic pregnant women. The preschool children are to be given 20 milligrams of iron and 100 micrograms of folic acid. Adolescent girls are to be beneficiaries in this program. Then there's iron fortification, that is fortification of salt with iron. There has to be control of parasites and most importantly nutrition education. Now let us look into the third major component, the iodine deficiencies, incidence, signs and symptoms and their treatment. Let us look at the thyroid hormone, the most important aspect as far as iodine is concerned. Iodine is an integral part of the thyroid hormone. The total iodine content in healthy adult man is about 15 to 20 milligrams. But 70 to 80% of this is present in the thyroid gland alone. WHO, UNICEF, and the International Council for the Control of Iodine Deficiency Disorders recommended the daily intake of iodine as 90 micrograms from birth to 59 months for children, 120 micrograms for children from 6 to 12 years, 150 micrograms for individuals more than 12 years, and 200 micrograms for pregnant and lactating women. Let us look at the dietary sources. The iodine content of food varies widely, but the amount of iodine present in the common staple foods like cereals or root crops depends more on the iodine content of the soil where the crop is grown than the food itself. Seafoods like shellfish, fish, and plant products such as seaweed are generally very rich in iodine. Let us just have a look at the etiology of goiter. The factors that are responsible for iodine deficiency disorders are classified under two major categories: environmental factors and the intrinsic factors. The two important factors are environmental iodine deficiency and the goitrogens that are naturally present in food. Of the two, environmental iodine deficiency accounts for the endemicity in most of the areas as far as goiter is concerned. Environmental iodine deficiency. Most of the iodine requirement is met through food and water. Iodine exists in nature in large quantities in seawater. Seawater, along with iodine, evaporates to form clouds, and it is estimated that more than 4 lakh tons of iodine escapes from sea into atmosphere every year. These clouds, when condensed, reach Earth in the form of rain or snow, and this is how they enrich the top layers of the soil. The food crops that are grown on this soil and the animals, while grazing on the plants that are grown on this soil, assimilate the iodine, and the river water carries some of the iodine back into the sea. However, in the hilly slopes, rainwater either leaches out the iodine from soil or erodes the top layer, leaving an iodine deficient soil. Similarly, glaciers, floods, and changes in the course of rivers contribute to leaching out of iodine from soil. The food crops grown on these iodine deficient soils will naturally be deficient in iodine, and people subsisting solely on such foods are exposed to the risk of iodine deficiency disorders. The second cause is the goitrogens. Goitrogens interfere with iodine utilization. The known goitrogens are thiocyanates, flavonoids, disulfides, phenols, biphenyls, and lithium. Lithium is used in the treatment of some neurological disorders. Even excess of iodine that is consumed can act like a goitrogen. Goitrogen food sources are tubers, vegetables like tapioca, cabbage, and cauliflower. Sorghum, finger millet, mustard, groundnuts also contain a fair amount of goitrogens. Depending upon their interference, these are classified into three classes. Class 1 goitrogens, that is thiocyanate, isothiocyanate, cyanogenic glycosides, they inhibit iodine uptake by the thyroid gland. The class 2 are thiourea, thionamides, and flavonoids. These affect the stages of organification and coupling in the process of thyroxine synthesis. The third class of goitrogens were excess iodine and lithium, which interfere at the stage of proteolysis, a step which is necessary for the utilization of thyroxine. Then some of the intrinsic factors such as failure to synthesize thyroid hormone, inherited and the congenital defects in the hormone synthesis, and the secretion and the peripheral resistance to thyroid hormone can also result in goiter. However, the incidence of goiter due to such intrinsic factors is sporadic in nature. The iodine deficiency disorders refer to a spectrum of disabling conditions arising from inadequate dietary intake of IDD, that is iodine deficiency disorders, affect the health of humans from fetal stage to adulthood. In India, vast population has a very high prevalence of IDD. Let us look at the clinical manifestations. The first and most important is the endemic goiter, where there is enlargement of the thyroid gland. When dietary intake of iodine falls below 50 micrograms per day in adults, the thyroid gland begins to compensate by enlarging slowly over time. Where there is a chronic dietary deficiency of iodine, the thyroid often begins to enlarge during childhood, and it becomes more markedly enlarged around the time of puberty, particularly in girls. Goiter is defined as non-neoplastic, non-inflammatory, and non-toxic enlargement of thyroid gland. Its prevalence is common in young adults, school children, and women are more affected than men. Goiter belt, that is the sub-Himalayan region, there is a large prevalence of goiter. Cretinism. Endemic cretinism is associated with severe iodine deficiency during intrauterine life. Its prevalence is seen in areas where there is high prevalence of goiter. A wide range of defects such as mental deficiency, deaf mutism, spastic paralysis of legs in varying degrees are associated with this condition. There is neurological cretinism also, that is severe mental challenge, deaf mutism, spastic rigidity, leading to characteristic gait and brisk reflexes. These are typically due to environmental iodine deficiency. Then there is myxedematous cretinism, that is hypothyroidism, coarse and dry skin, swollen tongue, deep hoarse voice, apathy, and mental deficiency. It is also associated with skeletal growth retardation, weak abdominal muscles, sluggish bowel functions, and delayed tendon reflexes. This is predominantly due to the goitrogens in the diet. This is just a slide to show you how iodine deficiency can affect fetus, neonates, children and adolescents, and even adults. In the fetal stages, abortions and stillbirths are very common, and in adulthood, goiter with complications, impaired mental functions are very common. Let us look at the methods to control and prevent IDD, iodine deficiency disorders. Now, the only way to do that is to provide iodine to the community. This can be achieved by fortification of food items with iodine or by direct iodine supplementation, and if necessary, by discouraging people from consuming foods known to contain very high levels of goitrogens. Iodine fortifications, that is staples like wheat flour, bread, milk, sugar, drinking water, and common salt. Fortification of edible salt is the most common, because salt is one which is more or less consumed in same amount across the world in all the sexes irrespective of the socioeconomic classes. Potassium iodate or iodide is used, and salt is fortified with potassium iodate and is relatively more stable than the iodide form. Hence, potassium iodate is commonly used. There is also iodized oil supplementation, that is fortified with iodine for both oral and intramuscular injections. As of now, France is the only country in the world which is producing iodized oil from poppy seed oil for injection, lipiodol, as well as for oral administration, Oreodol. So, in conclusion, we can say that good nutritional status is important for the national development, and nutritional security is vital for the development of the country. Vitamin and mineral deficiency is the source of the most massive hidden hunger and malnutrition in the world today. Thank you.